Hi, I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot.
And I'm Bill Ryan, and this is Sunday the 26th of July 2009, have I got that right? And I personally want to say that I'm delighted to be here with Stephen Greer.
Oh, good, nice to meet you.
Of all the people who we get emails asking us to interview, you are number one on quite a long list.
Oh, wow.
And the reason for that is because a lot of people see Project Camelot as continuing to kick the ball that was kicked off by the Disclosure Project back in 1993. And you started something that we're doing our best to support you with in terms of bringing the truth to the world.
Oh,
and
good,
so
thank you.
We want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So we have some questions for you, but they might not be the most comfortable of questions.
Oh, I can take any questions.
Okay. And we've heard that you're not a wilting violet, as they call it, or whatever. So what we're wondering here, because we have different philosophies, I think,
Right.
and different approaches, and I think that's really interesting. I know that we started out maybe at the same place in terms of we're taking witness testimony, and certainly you did, and that tactic was very effective and has stimulated us to go down the road we went on. And we've been doing this for a little over 3 years now. And I just wondered if you have a philosophy that you feel like, or a trajectory that brought you from witness testimony to free energy, and if you could talk a little bit about that road.
Well, obviously the Disclosure Project involves many elements. One is the disclosure of the fact that we're not alone. The other is that there are highly classified projects that have been run illegally for about over 50 years dealing with this. And number three, you cannot say that this has been kept secret and it's real without giving the raison d'etre. Why would something like this be kept secret? Now, in the early days, it could be argued that, well, there were religious issues, that the people would panic at the idea that there was life in outer space, or that there were theological objections. And in fact, these still exist. I had a senior Jet Propulsion Laboratory scientist say the reason that some of the information about the ancient structures on Mars has been withheld is that it would, quote, collapse the foundations of all orthodox religions in the world, to which I said, great. I mean, it's time people who think the world's 6,000 years old and we rode dinosaurs bareback need to get a life.
Yeah.
But okay, so that was one area. But the largest one, and this is when everything went deep black in October 1954, I mean, we know it to the day, was because they had actually figured out and mastered the electromagnetic-gravitic propulsion systems. So that was 55 years ago.
Right.
Because, 55 years ago, there was the ability to master those sort of technologies. And obviously, when the Rockefeller Commission that reorganized the Department of Defense and the CIA was put together by Eisenhower, what they did was reorganize it in a way so that these sort of issues were handled under work for other programs and aerospace contracting entities and high-tech entities, and really took it out of the oversight of the President and the Congress. And that's when it all went south, and has been that way ever since.
Right.
So, and the reason for that is because if you acknowledge that the UFOs are real, the very next thing that any bona fide scientist or policy analyst is going to ask is, well, how in the hell are they getting from one star system to another? And when that question is asked, it will be answered, because we have people on our team who can answer it in great detail.
Yeah,
and then when that is answered, I'm trying to finish one thought here.
Sure.
When that is answered, you are going to then see the end of oil, gas, coal, nuclear power, all of it. That's a $500 trillion asset base that they're sitting on and protecting. 200 or 300 people and corporations in the world control half the wealth of the planet, the net worth of the planet. So the secrecy has to be understood within a larger macroeconomic geopolitical crisis where there's been accretion of enormous power in the hands of relatively few people. And this has gotten worse, not better, since the Gilded Age of the Industrial Revolution's dawn. It's actually worse now than it was in the time of Cornelius Vanderbilt and the Rockefellers. It's worse now than it was. So that, I think, is, and so our focus, as we've learned more and more about the reasons for the secrecy and the kinds of technologies that are extant, is that we have concluded that it's very, very important to be able to bring out those energy systems, at least what I call the level 1 systems, the ones that you could put on a box over here or something on the size of a coffee table, and I've seen these. Now, I've, of course, seeing them and being able to bring them out and having people release them is another matter, but I've seen them, and they extract energy from, some would call it the 0 point energy field, some would call it the quantum vacuum flux field, whatever you want to call it, but in the fabric of space-time around us, there's an enormous electromagnetic potential that can be touched into and brought out. And that is one of the practical implications of disclosure. I mean, there are many implications. One is informational, one is diplomatic contact, and one is the issue about science and technology, which could transform the planet, get us off of oil, stop global warming, end the crisis of the have and the have-nots and the poverty in the world. So that, I think, resonates with many people. There are a certain number of people who are interested in extraterrestrial life. There's a much larger number of people who are concerned about the environment, the energy crisis, the poverty in the world, etc.
So what you're saying is what you're saying, that what you were propelled towards is the latter? I mean, is that really, because I know your emphasis is now really free energy.
No, it isn't.
Or it seems to be. Maybe I
misunderstand. You need to not state my priorities, and let me be very clear on this. We have 3 programs going on with equal bore simultaneously.
Oh, really? Okay.
Number 1 is CSETI, the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which is an interplanetary, interstellar diplomatic initiative. That was the founding entity, and it's still the primary focus. Okay. The second is Disclosure Project. That started as Project Starlight when I was briefing the CIA director and the Clintons and all these people, and then evolved into the Disclosure Project when Clinton said, I won't do it because I'll end up like Jack Kennedy. And the Congress people that we met with said, this is too big a fish for us to reel in. We're not going to do it. So it kind of devolved onto our shoulders. And then that's why we did in 2001, to correct the date, the National Press Conference event and the Disclosure Project. And that still continues. We still continue to do that. And then the third is the OrionProject.org and the focus on trying to identify people who have an understanding of these new physics and sciences so we can bring out some of the practical applications. So those 3 things are going on with Equal Board. We have teams of people working on all of them. I'm sort of the coordinator or head of those 3 projects, but they're interrelated, and they're actually 3 sides of a pyramid or whatever, not pyramid, but 3 sides of one entity. And 3 facets that are interlocking.
I'm sorry, I had a misunderstanding.
No, it's good that you brought it up, because many people do have that.
Yeah, we get a newsletter, the Orion Project, or how you refer to it, newsletter comes into my inbox, and it is, exclusively talking about sort of more the free energy side of things, and so, it's a misconception, but is out there. And, as you say, I mean, it's very interesting to hear that you're continuing these other...
and people have to understand that, people say, well, what about disclosure? I said, we have the testimony of 110 of these military witnesses out there. Mm-hmm. We have DVDs and other materials and books out there with thousands of pages of government documents. We have put the dispositive proof and testimony out there, and that then has launched the worldwide disclosure movement in many, many countries, as you know. At this point, when we started that endeavor, it was 30 or 40% of the public felt these were real. Now it's 80%. Some countries, in polls that they did recently here in Spain, it was 90-some%. Think that we're not alone and ETs are real. So we feel that the big overarching strategy of establishing that fact has happened. What has not happened is, at least within America, an official acknowledgement of the issue and the ending of the secrecy. But this